Okay, then I think we can begin. We are still on chapter 24, which is Pundit Shashadhar. And the date is Wednesday, June 25th, 1884. What is Bhakti Yoga? It is keep the mind on God by chanting His name and glories. For the Kali Yuga, the path of devotion is easiest. This is indeed the path for the sage. The path of karma is very difficult. First of all, as I've just said, where will one find the time for it nowadays? Where's the time for a person to perform their duties as enjoined by the scriptures? Man's life is short in this age. Further, it's extremely difficult to perform one's duties in a spirit of detachment without craving the result. One cannot work without such a spirit without first having realized God. Attachment to the result somehow enters the mind, though you may not be aware of it. To follow Jnana Yoga in this age is also very difficult. First, a person's life depends entirely on food. Second, they have a short span of life. Third, they can by no means get rid of body consciousness, and the knowledge of Brahman is impossible without the destruction of body consciousness. The Jnani says, I am Brahman, I am not the body. I'm beyond hunger and thirst, disease and grief, birth and death, pleasure and pain. How can you be a Jnani if you are conscious of disease, grief, pain, pleasure, and the like? A thorn enters your flesh, blood flows from the wound, and you suffer very badly from the pain. But nevertheless, if you are a Jnani, you must be able to say, why, there is no thorn in my flesh at all. Nothing is the matter with me. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga is prescribed for this age. By following this path, one comes to God more easily than by following the others. One can undoubtedly reach God by following the paths of jnana and karma, but they are very difficult paths. Bhakti Yoga is the religion for this age. But that does not mean that the lover of God will reach one goal and the philosopher and worker another. It means that if a person seeks the knowledge of Brahman, he can attain it by following the path of bhakti too. God, who loves his devotee, can give him the knowledge of Brahman if he so desires. But the bhakta wants to realize the personal God, endowed with form, and talk to him. He seldom seeks the knowledge of Brahman, but God, who does everything at his pleasure, can make his devotee the heir to his infinite glories if it pleases him. He gives his devotee both the love of God and the knowledge of Brahman. If one is somehow able to reach Calcutta, one can see the Maidan and the museum and other places too. The thing is how to reach Calcutta. By realizing the Divine Mother of the universe, you will get knowledge as well as devotion. You will get both. In Bhava Samadhi, you will see the form of God. And in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you will realize Brahman, the absolute existence, knowledge, bliss. In Nirvikalpa Samadhi, ego, name, and form do not exist. A lover of God prays to Divine Mother, O Mother, I am very much afraid of selfish actions. Such actions have desires behind them, and if I perform them, I shall have to reap their fruit. But it is very difficult to work in a detached spirit. I shall certainly forget thee, O Mother, if I involve myself in selfish actions. Therefore I have no use for them. May my actions, O Divine Mother, be fewer every day till I attain thee. May I perform without attachment to the results only what action is absolutely necessary for me. May I have great love for thee, and may I go on with my few duties. May I not entangle myself in new work so long as I do not realize thee. But I shall perform if I receive thy command, otherwise not. Pundit. How far did you go in visiting the sacred places? Master. Oh, I visited a few places, with a smile. But Hazra went farther and also climbed higher. He visited Rishikesh, but I didn't go so far or so high. You must have noticed kites and vultures soaring very high in the sky, but their eyes are always fixed on the charnel pits. Do you know the meaning of charnel pits? It is lust and greed. What is the use of making pilgrimages if you can attain love of God remaining where you are? I've been to Benares and noticed the same trees there as here, the same green tamarind leaves. Pilgrimage becomes futile if it does not enable you to attain the love of God. Love of God is the one essential and necessary thing. Do you know the meaning of kites and vultures? There are many people who talk big, who say that they perform most of their duties enjoined in the scriptures. But with all that, their minds are engrossed in worldliness and deeply preoccupied with money, riches, name, fame, creature comforts, and such things. Pundit: It is true, sir. Going on pilgrimage is like seeking diamonds and gems while discarding the precious stone that's worn by Narayana himself on his breast. Master: I want you to remember this. You may impart thousands of instructions to people, but they will not bear fruit except in proper time. On going to bed, a child says to his mother, "Mother, please wake me up when I feel the call of nature." The mother says, "Don't worry about it, my child. That call will wake you up itself." All laugh. One feels yearning for God at the proper time. There are 3 classes of physicians. The physicians of one class feel the patient's pulse and go away, merely prescribing medicine. As they leave the room, they simply ask the patient to take the medicine. They are the poorest class of physicians. Likewise, there are teachers who only give instruction, but do not stop to see whether their teachings have produced a good or a bad effect. They do not think at all about the disciple. There are physicians of another class who prescribe medicine and ask the patient to take it. If the patient is unwilling to follow their directions, they reason with him. Then these are mediocre physicians. Likewise, there are mediocre teachers. They give instructions to the student, and further, they try to persuade him in various ways to follow the instruction. Lastly, there are the physicians of the higher class, the highest class. If the patient does not respond to their gentle persuasion, they even exert force upon him. If necessary, they press their knees on their patient's chest and force the medicine down their throat. Likewise, there are teachers of the highest class who even exert force to direct the mind of the pupil toward God. Pundit: Sir, if there are such superior teachers as you have described, then why should you say that one does not get the knowledge of God until the right time comes? Master: You are right. But what will the physician do if the medicine runs out the patient's mouth and doesn't reach his stomach? In such a case, even the best physician can't do anything. The teacher should judge the fitness of a student before giving him instruction. But you don't discriminate in your instruction. When a young man comes for me for instruction, first of all, I ask him about his relatives at home. Suppose he has lost a father. Suppose his father's left some debts for him. How can such a person direct his mind to God? Are you listening to me? Pundit: Yes, sir. I'm paying attention to every word. Master: One day some Sikh soldiers came to the temple garden at Dakshineshwar. I met them in front of the Kali temple. One of them referred to God as very compassionate. Indeed, I said, is that true? But how do you know? He answered, because, sir, God gives us food and takes every care of us. And I said, well, why should that surprise you? God is the father of us all. Who will look after the child if the father doesn't? Do you mean to say the people in the neighboring village should look after the child? Narendra: Then shouldn't we call God kind? Master: Have I forbidden you to do so? What I mean is that God is our very own. He is not a stranger to us. Pundit: Priceless words. Master to Narendra: I listened to your singing, but I didn't enjoy it, so I left the room. Your mind is now set on seeking a job, and therefore your song sounded dull. Narendra flushed. He was ashamed of himself and remained silent. The master asked for a drink of water. A glass of water had been placed near him, but he could not take it. He asked for some fresh water. Later it was found that a man of immoral character had touched the first glass. Pundit to Hazra: You live in his company day and night. You must be very happy. Master with a smile: Oh, this is indeed a great occasion for me. Today I have seen the crescent moon of the second night of the bright fortnight. All laugh. Do you know why I referred to the moon of the second day? Sita once said to Ravana, "You are the full moon and Rama is the crescent moon of the second day of the bright fortnight." Ravana did not understand the meaning of the words. He thought Sita was flattering him and became exceedingly happy. But Sita meant that Ravana had reached the fullest limit of his power and prosperity, and that thenceforth he would wane like the full moon. Rama, on the other hand, was the moon of the second day. He would wax day by day. The master was about to take his leave. The pundit and his friends bowed low before him. It was not yet dusk, and Sri Ramakrishna returned to Ishan's house with the devotees. The master took his seat in the drawing room with Ishan and his sons, a pundit, and a few devotees. Master, smiling to Ishan, "I said to Pandit Shashidhar, you have hardly set your foot on the tree, and you aspire to lay hold of a big bunch of fruit. First of all, practice some spiritual disciplines. Then you may teach others." Ishan, "Every preacher thinks that he enlightens others. The glowworm may also think he illumines the world. Imagine this to be the glowworm's feeling, and someone said to it, 'Oh, glowworm, how can you bring light to the world? You only reveal the intensity of the darkness.'" Master, with a smile, "But Shashidhar is not just a scholar. He also has a little discrimination and dispassion." A pundit who was present said to Sri Ramakrishna, "You are indeed a great soul." Master, "You may say so about sages like Narada, Prahlada, or Sukadev. I am like your own son." Of course, in one sense, your words are true. It is said in one respect that the devotee of God is greater than God himself, because he carries God in his heart. All rejoice. It is said in the Vaishnava books, a devotee regards himself as higher, and God as a lower being. Yashoda, the mother of Krishna, was about to fetter Krishna, who was God incarnate, with chains. She believed that no one but herself could take care of Krishna. Sometimes God acts the magnet and the devotee is the needle. God attracts the devotee to himself. Again, sometimes the devotee acts as the magnet and God is the needle. Such is the attraction of the devotee that God comes to him unable to resist his love. The master was about to leave for Dakshineshwar. Ishan and the other devotees stood around him while he gave Ishan various words of advice. Master, a devotee who can call on God while living a householder's life is a hero indeed. God thinks, "He who has renounced the world for my sake will surely pray to me. He must serve me. Is there anything very remarkable about it? People will cry shame on him if he fails to do so. But he is blessed indeed who prays to me in the midst of all of his worldly duties. He is trying to find me overcoming a great obstacle, pushing away, as it were, a huge block of stone weighing a ton. Such a man is a real hero." Pundit, "You are right, sir. The scripture says the same thing. There is in the Mahabharata the story of the pious hunter and the chaste woman. Once a hermit was disturbed in his meditation by a crow. When he cast an angry glance at the bird, it was reduced to ashes. The hermit said to himself, "I've destroyed the crow by a mere glance. I must have made great progress in spiritual life." Well, one day he went to a woman's house to beg his food. She was devoted to her husband and served him day and night. She provided him with water to wash his feet and even dried them with her hair. When the hermit knocked on the door for alms, she was serving her husband and could not open the door at once. The hermit, in a fit of anger, began to curse her. The chaste woman answered from the inner apartments, "I am not your crow." "Wait a few minutes, sir. After finishing my service to my husband, I shall give you my attention." Well, the hermit was very much surprised to find that the simple woman was aware of his having burnt the crow to ashes. He wanted her to give him spiritual instruction. At her bidding, he went to the pious hunter at Benares. This hunter sold meat, but he also served his parents day and night as embodiments of God. The hermit said to himself in utter amazement, "Why, he's a butcher and a worldly man. How can he give me the knowledge of Brahman?" But the hunter was a knower of Brahman and acquired divine knowledge through the performance of his worldly duties. The hermit was illumined by the instruction of the pious hunter. That's the Vyadha Gita, which is part of the Mahabharata. It's really quite beautiful. The master was about to take his leave. He was standing at the door of the next house where Ishan's father-in-law lived. Ishan and the other devotees stood by the master. They were waiting to bid him goodbye. Ramakrishna said to Ishan, "Live in the world like an ant. The world contains a mixture of truth and untruth, sugar and sand. Be an ant and take the sugar." Again, the world is like a mixture of milk and water. The bliss of God consciousness and the pleasure of sense enjoyment. Be a swan and drink the milk, leaving the water aside. Live in the world like a waterfowl. The water clings to the bird, but the bird shakes it off. Live in the world like a mudfish. The fish lives in the mud, but its skin is always bright and shiny. The world is indeed a mixture of truth and make-believe. Discard the make-believe and take the truth. Ramakrishna got into the carriage and left for Dakshineshwar. And that is the end of this chapter. Any questions or remarks on anything in this reading or previous readings? Any comments or questions? Well, then we'll move on to the next one, which is Advice to Pundit Shashidhar. Monday, June 30th, 1884. Ramakrishna was in his room, sitting on a mat spread on the floor. Pundit Shashidhar and a few devotees were with him on the mat, and the rest sat on the bare floor. Surendra, Baburam, M., Harish, Latu, Hazra, and others were present. It was about 4 in the afternoon. Ramakrishna had met Pundit Shashidhar 6 days before in Calcutta, and now the Pundit had come to Dakshineshwar to visit the master. Budhar Chattopadhyay and his elder brother, the Pundit's host, were with him. The Pundit was a follower on the path of Jnana. The master was explaining this path to him. He said, Nitya and Leela are two aspects of one and the same reality. He who is the indivisible Satchidananda has assumed different forms for the sake of his Leela. As he described the nature of the ultimate reality, the master every now and then became unconscious in samadhi. While he talked, he was intoxicated with spiritual fervor. He said to the Pundit, "My dear sir, Brahman is immutable and immovable, like Mount Sumeru, but he who is immovable can also move." The master was in ecstasy. He began to sing in his melodious voice. Who is there that can understand what Mother Kali is? Even the 6 darshanas are powerless to reveal her. He went on. Is Mother merely a simple woman, born as others are born? Only by chanting her holy name does Shiva survive the deadly poison. It is she who creates the worlds, she who preserves and destroys. With a mere wink of her wondrous eyes, she holds the universe in her womb. Seeking a shelter at her feet, the gods themselves feel safe, and Mahadeva, god of gods, lies prostrate at her feet. Again he sang, Is Mother only Shiva's wife? To her must needs bow down low the all-destroying king of death. Naked she roams about the world, slaying her demon foes, or stands erect on Shiva's breast, her feet upon her husband's form. What a strange wife she makes. My mother's play, declares Prasad, shatters all rules and laws. Strive hard for purity, O mind, and understand my mother's ways. And again, I drink no ordinary wine, but wine of everlasting bliss. As I repeat my mother Kali's name, it so intoxicates my mind that people take me to be drunk. And again, can everyone have the vision of Shama? Is Kali's treasure for everyone? Oh, what a pity my foolish mind will not see what is true. Even with all his penances, rarely does Shiva himself behold the mind-bewitching sight of Mother Shama's crimson feet. To him who meditates on her, the riches of heaven are poor indeed. If Shama casts her glance on him, he swims in eternal bliss. The prince of yogis, the king of gods, meditate on her feet in vain, yet worthless Kamalakanta yearns for his blessed mother's feet. The master's ecstatic mood gradually relaxed. He stopped singing and sat in silence. After a while, he got up, and sat on the small couch. Pundit Shashidhar was charmed by his singing. Very humbly he said to Sri Ramakrishna, "Are you going to sing any more?" A little later, the master sang again. High in the heaven of the mother's feet, my mind was soaring like a kite when came a blast of sin's rough wind that drove it swiftly toward the earth. Then he sang, "Once for all this time I have thoroughly understood, from one who knows it well, I have learnt the secret of bhava. A man has come to me from a country where there is no night, and now I cannot distinguish day from night any longer. Rituals and devotions have grown profitless for me. My sleep is broken. How can I slumber any more? For now I am wide awake in the sleeplessness of yoga. O Divine Mother, made one with thee in yoga sleep at last, my slumber I have lulled asleep forevermore. I bow my head, says Prasad, before desire and liberation, knowing the secret that Kali is one with the highest Brahman. I've discarded once for all righteousness and sin." Ramakrishna continued, "I have surrendered my soul at the fearless feet of the Mother. Am I afraid of death any more? Unto the tuft of hair on my head I tied the almighty mantra, Mother Kali's name. My body I have sold in the marketplace of the world, and with it I've bought Sri Durga's name." As Sri Ramakrishna sang the line, "and with it I've bought Sri Durga's name," tears flowed from Pundit Shashidhar's eyes. The master went on with the song. "Deep within my heart I've planted the name of Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree of heaven. When Yama, king of death, appears, to him I shall open my heart and show it growing there. I've cast out from me my 6 unflagging foes, and those are the 6 passions. Ready I am to sail life's sea, crying, to Durga, victory." Again he sang, "Dwell, O mind, within yourself, enter no one else's home. If you but seek there, you will find all you're searching for." And again, "Though I am never loath to grant salvation, I hesitate indeed to grant pure love. Whoever wins pure love surpasses all. He is adored by men. He triumphs over the 3 worlds." The Pundit had studied the Vedas and other scriptures. He loved to discuss philosophy. The master, seated on the couch, cast his benign look at the Pundit and gave him counsel through parables. Master to the Pundit, "There are many scriptures like the Vedas, but one cannot realize God without austerity and spiritual discipline. God cannot be found in the 6 systems, the Vedas or the Tantra. But one should learn the contents of the scriptures and then act according to their injunctions. A man lost a letter. He couldn't remember where he had left it. He began to search with it with a lamp. After 2 or 3 people had searched, the letter was at last found. The message in the letter was, 'Please send us 5 seers of sandesh and a piece of wearing cloth.' The man read it and then threw the letter away. There was no further need of it. Now all he had to do was buy the 5 seers of sandesh and the piece of cloth. Better than reading is hearing, and better than hearing is seeing. One understands the scriptures better by hearing than, one understands the scriptures better by hearing them from the words of the guru or a holy man. Then one doesn't have to think about the non-essential part. Hanuman said, 'Brother, I don't know much about the phase of the moon or the position of the stars. I just contemplate Rama.' But seeing is far better than hearing. Then all doubts disappear. It is true that many things are recorded in the scriptures, but all these are useless without the direct realization of God, without devotion to his lotus feet, without purity of heart. The almanac forecasts rainfall of the year, but not even 1 drop will get you by squeezing the almanac. No, not even 1 drop. How long should one reason about the text in the scriptures, so long as one does not have the direct realization of God? How long does the bee buzz about? As long as it's not sitting on a flower. No sooner does it light on a flower than it begins to sip the honey, and it keeps quiet. But you must remember another thing. One may talk even after the realization of God, but then one only talks of God and of divine bliss. It is like a drunkard's crying, 'Victory, the Divine Mother.' He can hardly say anything else on account of his drunkenness. You can notice, too, that a bee makes an indistinct humming sound after having sipped the honey from the flower. The jnani reasons about the world and through this process of neti, not this, not this. Reasoning this way, he at last comes to the state of bliss, and that is Brahman. What is the nature of a jnani? He behaves according to scriptural injunctions. Once I was taken to Chanak and saw some sadhus there. Several of them were sewing. All laugh. At the sight of us, they threw aside their sewing. They sat straight, crossing their legs, and conversed with us. All laugh. But jnanis will not talk about spiritual things without being asked. They will inquire at first about such things as your health and your family. But the nature of the vijnani is different. He is unconcerned about anything. Perhaps he carries his wearing cloth loose under his arm, like a child, or perhaps the cloth has dropped from his body altogether. The man who knows that God exists is a jnani. A jnani is like one who knows beyond a doubt that a log of wood contains fire. But vijnani is one who lights the fire, cooks over the fire, and is nourished by the food. The 8 fetters have fallen from the vijnani. He may merely keep the appearance of lust, anger, and the rest. Pundit, the knots of his heart are cut asunder, all his doubts are destroyed. Master, yes. Once a ship sailed into the ocean. Suddenly its iron joints and nails and screws fell out. The ship was passing a magnetic hill, so all the iron was loosened. I used to go to Krishna Kishore's house. Once when I was there, he said to me, "Why do you chew betel leaf?" I said, "It is my sweet pleasure. I shall chew betel leaf. I shall look at my face in the mirror, and I shall dance naked among 1,000 girls." Krishna Kishore's wife scolded him and said, "What have you said to Ramakrishna? You don't know how to talk to people." In this state, passions like lust and anger are burnt up. Though nothing happens to the physical body, it looks just like another body, but the inside is all hollow and pure. A devotee, does the body remain even after the realization of God? Master, the body survives with some so that they may work out their prarabdha karma or work for the welfare of others. By bathing in the Ganges, a man gets rid of his sin and attains liberation. But if he happens to be blind, he doesn't get rid of his blindness. Of course, he escapes future births, which would otherwise be necessary for reaping the results of his past sinful karma. His present body remains alive so long as the momentum is not exhausted, but future births are no longer possible. The wheel moves as long as the impulse that has set it in motion lasts. Then at last it comes to a stop. In the case of such a person, passions like lust and anger are burnt up. Only the body remains alive to perform a few actions. Pundit, that is called samskara. Master, the vijnani always sees God. That is why he is so indifferent about the world. He sees God even with his eyes open. Sometimes he comes down to the lila from the nitya. Sometimes he goes up to the nitya from the lila. Pundit, I don't understand that. Master, the jnani reasons about the world through the process of neti, and at last reaches the eternal and indivisible Satchidananda. He reasons in this manner. Brahman is not the living beings. It is neither the universe nor the 24 cosmic principles. As a result of such reasoning, he attains the absolute. Then he realizes that it is the absolute that has become all this, the universe, its living beings, and the 24 cosmic principles. Milk sets into curd, and the curd is churned into butter. After extracting the butter, one realizes that the butter is not essentially different from buttermilk, and buttermilk is not essentially different from butter. The bark of a tree goes with the pith, and the pith goes with the bark. Pundit smiling to Budar. Did you understand that? It's very difficult. Master, if there is butter, there must be buttermilk also. If you think of butter, you must also think of buttermilk along with it. For there cannot be any butter without buttermilk. Just so, if you accept the nitya, you must accept the lila. It is the process of negation and affirmation. You must realize the nitya by negating the lila. If you affirm the lila, seeing it in the manifestation of the lila. Then you affirm the lila, seeing in it the manifestation of the nitya. One attains this state after realizing reality One attains the state after realizing reality in both aspects, personal and impersonal. The personal is the embodiment of Chit, consciousness, and the impersonal, the indivisible Satchidananda. And that is a good place to stop. So any questions or comments on this? Everything going okay? Good to see you. Good to see you. I see Ganga, I see Devi Prana. I see our gang here, our online gang. Okay. So if there's no questions, we have some announcements. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock Pacific time, Swami Sumanasananda will speak on I Have a Mother. And then following Wednesday, there will be a reading from Swami Akhandananda by Swami Anandananda. It's a lovely book, which we're enjoying. And next Saturday, there will be a reading from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Okay, and then we can close with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.